again YouTube. So I've done another talkie after a long absence. And this was the question that was posed to me a long time ago. Was, could you please do a video about how you construct beautiful or interesting or awesome jazz lines or just musical lines in general? And so I thought I would do this. And the short answer is basically, it's complicated. See ya. But in all seriousness, constructing jazz lines is a very multi-layered problem, I guess, is what, or just good sounding musical lines. It's unlike improvising is unlike writing a solo where you're going to do the same thing again and again. What we're really trying to do is develop some tools so that we can actually approach some of this stuff in a way that's going to give us like more of an open field to create our own stuff on the fly and it not sound terrible, which is going to be the main goal, obviously. So you heard me playing this chord progression in the opening. I don't know if this was a tune somebody has written previously. It sounds like a Parker tune or something like that, like a bird song. But it's basically the chord progressions like C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F minor 7, B flat 7, back down. Then turn around 2 5 1. Right, and then the B section is F minor 9 or F minor 7, B flat 7 or 13, E flat major 7, Same thing down a whole step, which resolves to D flat major 7, then the 2 5 1 in C. Right? Back to the A section. Alright, so a lot of that I was playing on it is tonic. Definitely not stuff that you would consider to be outside particularly. Maybe I tried to slip the diminished scale in there and in a couple places, because you could theoretically do that because a lot of the same notes are there. Because you got, it's not technically part of the chord, but a lot of times piano players will change the harmony just so they can add another line to that chord, even though that wasn't originally what the progression was calling for. But who cares, right? We're just trying to make things more interesting. So let me go ahead and consult with my handy dandy clef note here. And yeah, I'll probably do a separate vid on voicings, chord voicings or something at some point. But for now, let's just focus on these lines. So what makes a musical line sound good, right? And again, the big thing is going to be phrasing and using space. So when you're first just trying to get your shit together, you basically want to start off with 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, progressions, and then work your way up and just kind of focus on the line itself, like trying to do something that sounds good. So when you record it and you listen back, you're like, oh wow, that actually sounds good, not something like I think I got it together, and I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it at some point because we don't have the infinite amount of time to practice and stuff. We have jobs and real life, right? But so like taking like just that C major 7, right? So like a phrase, you could imagine, like the drums, when the drummer takes a solo, it's, you know what, let me switch over to the drums. So basically, the drummers can get away with playing a shit ton of notes, whereas like a more tonal instrument, it's not necessarily as kosher to do that. But I wanted to just demonstrate something. So, let's say I have to keep on muting my mic. Okay. We start off with a jazz beat, right? Like a spangling. And then it kind of alternates. Here's a phrase, with a little bit of reverting back to the normal beat, So, yeah, you could just play continuously straight through a bunch of stuff, but if there's not something else happening, like a left hand on the guitar or piano, for example, or a bass player or something, there's no anchor that says, here's the form, or here's any kind of a structure that you're playing on top of. So, that's my point about phrasing on the guitar, is that basically we have to establish that there's something that is taking precedence as far as the system of the piece, as how it's organized, the architecture of the piece. So back to guitar. All right, so let's do this sort of in a chill way here. I guess we could take like little digital fragments, something like that. See, and then I go down a rabbit hole like that, where I'm like, I hear something that's implied, like it's like a call and answer. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. You start doing all these hemiolas and all these across the bar line type things, rather than just playing the same set of rhythms over and over and over again. So it's kind of like you want to do a little phrase that sounds pretty good. Wait a second. Wait for an opening, and then let's fill in something at that stage, right? So like, and this is all off the top of my head, right? I'm thinking chromatic right now, And again, by this point you probably all have like your stuff together where you know what scale to play on what chord, right? With this, it seems like this progression is implying for me to start off of maybe a third or a fifth, right? So like starting phrases like off of a third. Like especially on the minor chords, I find myself doing that kind of thing. So I get to the F, right? Yeah. with all of those sixths there, I'm thinking like a more diatonic version of a Pat Metheny lick that I've heard before. So there's a few ideas, but it really comes down to rhythm, like it's the thing about playing drums is that you kind of learn some independence already, right? So you're thinking like what rhythmically is going to fit in this bar, and then it's just a question of like what note choices and things like that. Like a lot of times I'll and I'm going to get into this in a minute, but about intervals and different things. So let's see what else is next on our list. Oh, intervals is next. Well, I'm going to say one more thing about the space though, because I wasn't adding a lot of space. So you can just think like this. You can, and again, this is about approaches, like building interesting lines over chords and stuff is about taking different approaches, like having a book of different approaches that you can draw from. So like one thing you could do is say, I'm only going to play on 2 chords at a time. So, right, then take a break and wait for the next chord. And then take a break, like so skip a chord or something like that, See, that's kind of interesting. If you're playing, guitar, even like regular fingerstyle guitar, not just two-handed tapping, but like, or especially piano or something, that gives you an opportunity for the left hand to chime in and go, here's a cool thing. So, like, I do that a lot, where I'll do, like, 2 lines, like, and, like, maybe like this, like, have the right hand do something, left hand plays the chord, but then it goes off and plays, like, a line that implies the chord, like you're playing more traditional fingerstyle type of chord soloing or that kind of start-stop technique, that's already automatically solving your problem for you, But this is solo guitar playing. Playing with a band is a different story. So, like, I've always heard, horn player, like other types of improvisers, say, if you want to, what's the secret to playing, like, good phrases? Take the horn out of your mouth or breathe. So, like, as a guitar player, a keyboard player, maybe physically stop yourself from playing. Like, you're, like, I think Adam Rogers or somebody I heard say, like, like, one of the cool things you can do is, like, play 5 and 7 note phrases. So, like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As opposed to getting stuck too much in, because it puts your downbeats in an interesting place, because we're not dealing with like dugga 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 dugga, I think you understand the math of what I'm trying to say. There's probably a more eloquent way to say it. Anyway, on to the next section. So, okay, I've got intervals. Okay, so a lot of times, sometimes, depending on the piece, I might decide, you know what, let's do some intervallic playing, like in that it takes the form of string skipping or just like intervals themselves, like coming up with an interesting geometry that you could do, like with fifths or something. Like that kind of stuff. Or whatever, pick and choose whatever you want. It doesn't have to necessarily be strictly one interval section after another. It could like be divided by little chromatic or scalar phrases or something. Maybe. And then again, there's other types of playing too. Like if you were like a piano player, or you're doing two-handed stuff, you could approach it with the two hands themselves making the intervals. And then also, if you're just playing lead, the same applies. Like anyway, I don't want to get too out of hand there. Okay, then next thing I've got is unexpecteds, and that means like inside versus outside playing, or just anything that's unexpected. And that could kind of fall into that category too, but I think what I was really referring to was just like stuff that technically shouldn't work, but sometimes it kind of does. Any kind of a lick that's outside the harmony for a split second or for a while, or like a ladder lick. Like that's a ladder lick. The Messiaen 9-tone scale. You probably heard Pat Metheny do that kind of stuff. And double notes and things like that, or weird rhythms that pop up. Yeah. So, but again, that's more just technical. Like, we're trying to think about phrasing. I'm doing too much flashy show off stuff. Like inside and outside type playing like that, Yeah, and sometimes, maybe the bass player drops out. It should drops down to just a bass line, or whoever's playing chords stops playing chords, and then that's like maybe a point where you can go, you're hearing it happen in real time. You got like a split second, and you're like, I'm gonna slip into this weird outside thing that because there's no chord there, right? You can get away with it, and it sounds really cool when like the chord comes back in and then it resolves nicely. So there's one way of looking at it. And of course, all of the double notes and things like that. Let's see. And then, of course, familiar things, like things that quoting tunes that already exist, that's something that you can do. I'm not gonna mess around with that. I think everybody kind of gets the idea with that. You don't want to get too corny with it, but that could be kind of cool too. And then of course there's like the biological element of like how comfortable are you with what you're doing. Right, like this is not a particularly difficult progression that I'm using as an example, but I did just kind of like decide on this basically before I went to bed last night and today when I got home. I'll just mess with this. So I've not really practiced with this progression. It's just it's still kind of like my left hand is still kind of like, oh. Like it's not, the muscle memory's kind of there, but it could be more nailed down than it is. So like that's something you're gonna want to really mess with, is come up with as many strategies for playing over those chord progressions. So like taking something like Autumn Leaves, everybody should know that. Like once you become super aware of how these different strategies, then it's like the tune opens up a lot more. And I think that's probably a great percentage of what we're talking about. It has to do with exactly that. Obviously, I've played that progression so much that it's like I'm coming up with these crazy outside things, and that just work really well and flow good. But then again, it's really about the comfort factor with your biology, your instrumental biology, how well you feel comfortable physically on the instrument over those chords. So like, and it's just like if you're running a trail or something, hiking through the woods, you're if you run that thing all the time, you're going to be able to like hit every little pocket of a root somewhere and just dart around the trail like a rabbit, versus the first time you do it, or first few times, you're not going to be able to do that as easily. You're probably you might even hurt yourself, So that's a factor. Let's see. And then of course I've got how rhythm mixes with harmony to make an interesting scene. So that's yet another thing, is like it has to do with like the drums, the drum factor of this. Like you could think of your instrument as a percussion instrument as opposed to just a solo instrument or a chordal instrument or something. You're thinking like more like And let's do Autumn Leaves a little bit more. You know, like if you just played one chord here for a second, you know. So there, I'm doing a bunch of 16th patterns that are broken between intervals, you know, and I kind of have like a constant start and stop effect. So like I could take like that idea, right, and like take it through the chords. And see, like there, you hit on like an interesting, thing where it's like you're on, so you can repeat like a rhythm or something, but then change the scale or the arpeggio or the harmony to fit what's changing harmonically. Let's see. Yeah, and then there's also like, I've seen like different piano players do this kind of thing where you'll go like, it's like where the left hand and the right hand are kind of completing each other. You know, da 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 da. Ignore my phone, please. So, and then they kind of like superimpose over each other. Anyway, so I've heard these different piano players doing this technique. So like real slow, we might be like. And it's really about rhythm. It's the same kind of thing when you have a drum beat going, You got some hi-hat or ride cymbal happening, and then the bass drum and the snare kind of kicking, every once in a while to complete something and set up the next downbeat, So that's an example. As a lead player, it's about you. That would be like using your ear when you hear whoever you're just playing chords. If they're doing stuff like that, like they're like, playing a lot of stuff, you know, you kind of need to match what's going on, you know. So like it's like, or playing a lot of choppy comping or something like that. It's the same kind of deal. If everybody's playing really long notes, maybe, you know, you would want to do the same, right? What else do we have? And of course, like, how well does the line that you're playing serve the tune or progression, right? And that's really the most important thing when it comes down to it, you know, is like, I guess, taste. If you're playing something and it just totally doesn't work, it doesn't fit at all, then guess what? You know, don't do it. You know, you can't just keep on trying to make something work when it doesn't. And if you are dead set on that, then, you know, maybe like sit down and write a disjointed head that works with that progression in a weird way, you know. And then there's plenty of like Don Grolnick, Michael Brecker era things like that, you know, that kind of typify what I'm saying. Which that itself was like the evolution of like the Thelonious Monk compositional technique, you know. If you want, in a way, I don't know that Grolnick or Brecker or any of those guys were super influenced by Monk as much, but, you know, it kind of comes off that way. It's quirky. It's kind of quirky, odd harmonic resolutions and stuff that just is like, bam, you know, I'm going to end on something like that, you know, as opposed to like the tonic chord or something. You know, it'll end on something like that. I do that too. You know. Okay. You know, so, you know, playing over the changes, just really playing the changes, you know. Maybe that's going to be super boring for you for a while. It's just like really learning to play like perpetuo moto phrases over the chords, you know, and then like take things away, start chopping things out. That is another way to approach it. So that's something I do, like, you know. That kind of thing, you know, just continuous lines and then start taking things out, you know. And of course, the beauty of this is that you can play chromatic stuff that kind of goes outside and inside as long as it's continuous and you resolve the proper tension and release. Still sounds kind of hip, you know. So there's something. What else do I have here? Yeah, so I think I'll probably end this by playing some, maybe like over one chord. Just like one static chord, or maybe I'll just play like random chords, you know. That's another thing that I do is practice sometime is, or maybe I'll do one and then the other, you know, like we'll kind of haven't made up my mind quite yet. That's something I do though. It's just like my left hand is just going, here's a random chord, jump up a minor third and play a totally different value chord. Now go down a fourth, now go up a fifth, you know, and none of the chords are related. They don't make sense when you analyze it, you know, but then I'm trying to then have my right hand separately just respond to it. You know what I mean? And it's not, I'm not basing this off of any progression or anything. It's just literally like, where's the bass line moving and what kind of weird, different value can I assign to the chord type, you know? So it could be literally anything. Like I'm going, here's a D flat major 7 flat 5. It's got that Lydian sound to it, and then go straight to a minor 7 flat 5 like you'd hear in any of those bebop tunes, and then to a G flat major 7, up to a B flat minor 7, B13, like that kind of thing. And then B13 flat 9, maybe a B7 with a D flat major triad in the top. Anything like that. But I think before I do that, let's just explore just taking like C, and then just kind of improvising some stuff on it, and then maybe change, after a bit, change the value of the chord to a different, and just kind of morph it through different values. So we'll start off with major, do minor, sevenths, diminished or altered, and just see kind of how that goes. And that's a good exercise too. And because you're in the same key, all you have to think about is what scale am I switching to, or what arpeggio am I switching to. So like we're in C major now. Compositionally, it's possible to come up with some interesting things like that, by just, playing with one root note and then changing all the chords on top, But a lot of times, and that kind of fulfills what I was saying earlier about, maybe I'll change the chords or something. I still want to try this a little bit, though. Like, we'll start in G or something and then just kind of go off on these tangents and see where I end up as far as harmony goes. But I hope that you've gotten something out of this. It's kind of fun doing these talky videos versus just a performance video. So I'll just kind of play you out with this, and see you on the next one. You saw that, right? I didn't even touch that. That was like a legit supernatural event that just took place.